Hello, I'm Jake Boudreau, civic journalist at Tello Community Television. This week on The Record, a new dialysis unit is coming to a local hospital. An Almadam resident is leading a group trying to get safe access to their communities. But first, a local member of parliament talks about amendments to the Fisheries Act. With me today is Breton-Canso MP Mike Kelloway, who issued a statement recently about the proceedings of the House of Commons Fisheries Committee. In your statement, you charged that Conservative members of Parliament, and I quote, have no interest in modernizing the Fisheries Act. And you noted that during a meeting of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Fisheries and Oceans on September 25th, Conservative members blocked the committee from starting a review of the Act when Conservative members of Parliament, Rick Perkins from Nova Scotia, Clifford Small from Newfoundland and Labrador, Mel Arnold from British Columbia, and Richard Bragdon of New Brunswick filibustered. Is it a normal tactic of opposition MPs to filibuster and delay on committees like this in the way that these Conservative MPs are doing?
It's certainly a parliamentary tactic that is used by parliamentarians and parties to stall a particular conversation from happening or a study from occurring. I was really disappointed last night because I'll set the backdrop for you, Jake, is that we have 2 days a week we have studies, and studies are scheduled. And yesterday was a day that another study we couldn't get witnesses. So we made the judgment call that, look, every fisher that I talk to back home, every fish operator, processor, anyone that touches the supply chain with respect to fisheries, wants a very comprehensive review of the Fisheries Act in terms of strengthening it, in particular owner operator and foreign vessels. And so we put this forward. The Conservatives clearly didn't want to talk about it. They filibustered for 2 hours straight about it. The last time the federal Conservatives were in government, they really took a sledgehammer to decreasing funding, $80 million to the budget, and fired 16 scientists, which really set us back for years after that. My concern is that we had witnesses there. We were ready to go, and they didn't want to talk about it. And my concern is that there's a hidden agenda here. Now, I'm not sure what that is. They would have to explain that to you. What I think is that there is a lot of, I think on their side, my impressions is that they're not big fans of the owner operator, which is actually sacrosanct. It's sacred in Atlantic Canada. And, you know, we, along with the fishers, the government of the day, we are the ones who, with the fishers, enshrined it in the Fisheries Act. I don't think they want to talk about that. I don't think they want to talk about foreign vessels. I don't think they want to talk about quotas. But every fisher that I talked to said, Mike, get it going. And the Conservatives last night were saying, we don't want to rush into this. Well, no one's rushing into it. We had witnesses there. They were good to go, lined up, ready to go. And they decided not to listen to them. And again, I focus on what people's actions are. They didn't want to talk about it. They stalled, and we didn't get to it. And already, you know, over the last number of months, I've seen tactics by the Conservative Party to push the Fisheries Act, you know, back and back and back. Ideally, we should be doing this sometime in November, October, November. We're not going to get to this till probably March or April. And that's problematic. This is, you know, a document that is enshrined in law. Owner operator, that is near and dear. Inshore fishers, near and dear. All the fishers from Marichat to Port Hawkesbury to Glace Bay to Guysborough to Inverness County, and all the associations that represent them should be really concerned. I mentioned last night that, again, it seems like there are things that they want to avoid speaking to, the Conservatives. There are things that they don't want to discuss in the Fisheries Act. My thought is, as I said last night, boys and girls, let's get to work. We have witnesses here. Let's start this. It's too important. And they kept stalling and stalling and stalling to the point where the amount of stalling they did was longer than the previous meeting. that we had. And, and that tells me they're hiding something. That tells me that they're not being open with their belief system when it comes to the Fisheries Act. For me, I'm pretty transparent with the people that I serve. My thought is, how do we strengthen owner operator? And fishers have come to me and said, Mike, there seems to be some loopholes in the Fisheries Act with respect to foreign companies coming in and buying things up. We need to discuss that. The other element to this, Jake, quite frankly, is that there's two ways to go with this. Ottawa knows best, or fishers do. And part of this process in committee is to hear from the associations, to hear from the fishers, to hear from the not-for-profits, to hear from the environmentalists, to hear from companies. That's what will strengthen the Fisheries Act. And I think we're at a unique time. A previous meeting, somebody on the other side said, well, the Senate is going to study that. Well, the Senate's not elected, with all due respect. I'm here to represent my people. I'm here to represent the communities, the coastal communities that rely on this act. And to say, well, the Senate's going to do it. I'm sorry, that does not pass the smell test. So for me, there's something afoot here. I'm not sure what it is. I have my assumptions, but I'll tell you this. When you have an open committee time slot and you have witnesses there to start it, you're not rushing in anything. They're there to provide their insight. What are we afraid of? What are we afraid of as a committee? What are the Conservatives afraid of from hearing from fishers? Yeah, we are the party that enshrined that with fishers, but don't hold that against fishers, right? We want to strengthen it. Work with us. Work with us. We'll work with you. I'll work with any Conservative that wants to strengthen the Fisheries Act. But what I want to is play a game. What I want to is play a game of people's lives, people's livelihoods, and in many respects, coastal communities' existence. And that's not overselling this. That's true. Owner operator is key. Quotas are key. Science is key. Doing things differently, because look, Jake, this is not perfect. There's work to do. There's mistakes to unmake. There are new things to charter. Where do we get that information? Time and time again, fishers.
In your statement, and earlier you mentioned when the Conservatives were last in power under Stephen Harper. In the statement, you said that the Conservative Party, and I quote, gutted the Fisheries Act last time they were in government, and this is just more evidence that they're planning to do it again. So since you guys took power, what have you guys done to kind of roll back some of those things that were done when the Conservatives were in power?
Well, one is, one aspect of the act is science. And when the Conservative government was here in Ottawa as government, they really cut budgets across the board. That's a style of government. Either you like it or you don't like it. Personally, I don't like it. I think when you cut DFO to the bone, you're going to feel it for years to come. And so they actually kind of pinpointed in the Fisheries Act on science. They cut science to the bone. And along with fishers who observe changes in the water just by their eyes and their experiences, science is so important in the decisions that we make and the quotas that come out. Well, they gutted it. And that is something that is like a ruby in the Fisheries Act. Science. And a lot of the challenges and issues we have that we've had to, over the last 8 years, kind of reinvent the science department and hire more people to do what they cut. So my thought is that if you're going to, attack the very essence of the Fisheries Act and the policies that support it, what else are you going to do should you get in? What other things are you going to do? And my thought is, okay, part of your filibuster should have been, and this is what we're going to do. And that's not what they did. And that's concerning to me as an Atlantic Canadian. It's concerning to me as a coastal Canadian.
Earlier, you mentioned that it seems like there's a hidden agenda at play here. And in your statement, you noted that this is another example of the Conservatives hiding the real agenda from Canadians. And you pointed out that Liberal members of Parliament will continue fighting to make sure the modernization of the Fisheries Act and coastal communities remain a priority for our government. Why are these changes so important? Why should people care about them?
These changes are so important because they find their way into the lives of Canadians, and not just fishers and their families and their budgets, their livelihoods. It's culturally important too. If you're a coastal Canadian, whether you're in Atlantic Canada or British Columbia, or you're in the Great Lakes or you're up north, it's a way of life. It's a job. It's a profession. It's family. It's friends. It's community wealth. And when you start, tinkering with that in ways that could be seen as cuts to it, you will find the impact immediately in your home, in your business, in your pocketbook, in the ability to grow, to expand, the ability to ensure that the small, the owner operator is in essence enshrining a small business entrepreneurial approach to the economy of Atlantic Canada. Most of our fishers are inshore. It's protecting them, protecting their livelihoods. So anything that tinkers with that in a major way or any way in terms of watering down the owner operator principle finds its way into every fisher's home and airshed, finds it in their family's home, in every place within Cape Breton-Canso, with every place in Atlantic Canada. It finds its way. And that I have a problem with. I'm about honesty and openness. And if you have a hidden agenda, put it on the table, because I can make assumptions here. I can make assumptions based on the last time they were in, where they cut it to the bone, where they did not give lip service. They gave lip service to the Fisheries Act. This is too important to me. This is like the Atlantic Accord. I think Atlantic Canadians hold this dear. I think fishers hold this dear, and playing cute with it is not the way to do it. But being honest and open and transparent in their beliefs is important. And then let's debate that. And but I think that it is absolutely counterintuitive to have witnesses in a room to talk about the Fisheries Act and then filibuster, basically waste time for 2 hours, which is a parliamentary, action that you can take. But the question is why? Why? Now their answer is, well, we didn't have enough time to prepare, and we don't want to rush into this. The last time I checked, we were all professionals. Last time I checked, we all get prepared at a moment's notice. Last time I checked, everyone said they wanted to start the study on the Fisheries Act, to do a comprehensive review of the Fisheries Act. Because I want to take these recommendations, Jake, and I want to be able to go to the minister and say, here are some of the recommendations, if not all the recommendations, to strengthen this act, to ensure that we continue the story on things like owner operator, because nothing is forever, meaning things do change. And when they change, people think, well, the owner operator principle will always be there. Will it? If there are people not there to fight for it? And so my concern is, yeah, I think that, I asked the question last night when I was walking back to my hotel in Ottawa. Why did we go through that last night? What was that sham, that performance all about? Was it to stick their finger at the Liberal Party? Was it to stick their finger at fishers? Was it to stick their finger in terms of just not believing in the Fisheries Act? Or do they want to be part of the solution? And we need people around the table that are part of the solution.
So in your statement, you said the Fisheries Act impacts everything from fishing quotas, science, and law enforcement efforts that keep fisheries safe, and I quote, is a critical law for coastal communities.
Mm-hmm.
So after this filibuster, what is next for the committee? What's going on now, and what does the future hold for these amendments to the Fisheries Act?
Well, that is a great question for the opposition. We want to study we want to do a comprehensive review last night. We wanted to do it last night. We would do it started on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. But there seems to be no inclination on terms of, in particular, the Conservatives to do that. So they'll continue to do the studies that we had lined up to do. We had a day to start it because it was either start the Fisheries Act yesterday or everyone had a day off. And quite frankly, are you kidding me? To have the day off when people are out there relying on us, people out there counting on us, regardless of who you voted for. Come on. Come on. We know, again, back home, that doesn't pass the smell test. You can do this. So basically, we'll continue to fight to have the Fisheries Act, the comprehensive review done. But the opposition, quite frankly, has more numbers on committee, and they can vote to do other studies that are important, that are necessary to review, necessary to take on. But we just had a missed opportunity to actually spend 2 hours and then, work collectively to figure out the scheduling. But there's none of that. It's just like, go pound sand, as my mother would used to say, by the opposition. You don't like it, deal with it. We're going to talk 2 hours about the last 10 years in the fishery and think that people are not smart enough to know that you don't want to talk about the Fisheries Act. Come on.
I appreciate you making time of your busy schedule, Mike. As always, responsive, and we really appreciate you sitting down and talking with me about this important topic.
Anytime, Jake. The fishery is so important to me. It's important to our constituents. It's important to Atlantic Canadians. And when we are not taking it seriously, like some people seem to be, that's a problem. But I'm here to fight for every single fisher, every single community. That's what I'm going to continue to do.
A new 6-station dialysis unit will be set up at Strait-Richmond Hospital in Evanston. The units will be built using a construction method called Design for Manufacture and Assembly, the Department of Health and Wellness said. It is a design-intensive approach which allows facilities to be constructed off-site and assembled on-site, reducing delays and unforeseen costs often associated with traditional construction methods, the department noted. A dialysis unit built using Design for Manufacture and Assembly can be built in less than 2 years, while traditional construction methods can take longer, the province noted. The department said construction will begin after a vendor is selected and detailed design is complete. Dr. Stephen Soroka, Senior Medical Director of Renal Program and Pharmacy Services with Nova Scotia Health, said modular building will decrease the time to add additional needed hemodialysis capacity in rural locations of the province, allowing patients to receive this specialized care closer to home, which improves and enhances the patient experience. Joining me today is Lakin Delory, who is leading a group of residents concerned with the loss of the bridge in Port Royal and the condition of McCachran Road, which is now the only way in and out of parts of that community, as well as the communities of St. Mary's and Jambrins Island. She also started the Facebook page, Port Royal Bridge. Recently, you learned that Nova Scotia Public Works will not start repaving work on McCachran Road this year, which was confirmed by Richmond MLA Trevor Boudreau, who said, and I quote, he was deeply disappointed. According to Boudreau, the department said they made applications to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans for shoreline protection and culverts related to the upgrades, and that the application was in a 90-day review period at that time. Because the approval process with DFO has taken more time than was anticipated, Boudreau confirmed that the deadline of the end of September will not be met, and Public Works hopes that the work can get going again this fall, but it is likely that paving will be pushed until next season. The MLA said he will continue to push Public Works to get as much work done as possible this year and to provide the necessary upgrades to make McCachran Road safe. Are you and others in the community disappointed to learn that not only do you not have a bridge, but the only way in and out of the community remains in an unsafe condition?
we definitely feel like our detour road, McCachran Road, is a very unsafe conditions for pedestrians and vehicles. It's difficult for all of us within the community to have had to wait as long as we've had to have our safety concerns addressed. And I feel like, the bridge being dismantled so quickly this past winter, which we assume they had all the necessary permits in place to do that type of work, we're surprised to find out that after waiting this long, that the permits aren't in place for the construction to have taken place on the main road that we have to travel now, which makes it really difficult for us as community members and others within the surrounding communities to have to travel that daily. If, as you're aware, if you've traveled the road, coming into McCracken Road from Highway 206 is very dangerous. It seems like the current pavement that's there is being undermined and collapsing, and there's potholes throughout. We've been living with, pylons in different areas of the road for years now that are, they're just there so that we can be aware of the dangerous holes that are there, and it's right on the sides of the roads and then into the water. So as daily drivers, we're faced with those obstacles, and if we have oncoming traffic in different directions, most times we have to stop and let the other car pass through, and that's up to us as community members here that are aware of where these dangerous sections of McCracken Road are, and we take it upon ourselves to make sure that we're safe and other members in our community stay safe on that road.
You said in a recent Facebook post that you were not surprised to hear this news once work didn't start at the end of August, as you were promised. Are you disappointed it took 2 weeks to confirm this?
I feel like we're very disappointed as a group, and I'm disappointed myself just because I feel like there's a great lack of communication from all parties involved, different types of government levels. And, we've reached out to people multiple times and the DOT asking for answers, timelines. And I feel like we've been very patient with this process. And, I feel like there's enough concern. It's not just a small group of members within the community. I think our group has reached over 300 people. So it's a major concern, and we're disappointed at, the lack of communication. And, we feel that if, these things could have been in place years ago, you know what I mean? If they knew the bridge was, in a state of condition that it was irreparable, and they had to come up with plan B. Well, I think that there should have been something in the works long ago, because McCracken Road has been a deteriorating road for, since before the bridge was dismantled. And that's why it's such a concern for the citizens here, because, we felt like the bridge was our safest route at the time. And a lot of people, have made comments on our Facebook page, certainly after, they started to dismantle it. We got to watch the heavy equipment, on the bridge for multiple days at a time. And here we are, being restricted access to it because it was unsafe for us to drive, a single vehicle on.
Mm-hmm.
Even so much so that they stopped us from, they put barriers in place so that, community members couldn't even use it as a walking path anymore.
Yeah, the perception seems to be that there was a rush to remove the bridge, but not a rush to provide a safe route in and out of those communities.
Yes, exactly. And we feel like if they were aware of this situation, then these sorts of things should have been put in place before they even decided to dismantle the bridge.
Are you confident in the promises of MLA Trevor Boudreau and District 2 Councillor Michael Dignan that some work will be done before winter, and why or why not are you confident?
I would say that I feel like I'm confident that there will be some work done on it this winter, just because I feel like we've put this issue out there. We're gaining, momentum with each passing day. People are asking for interviews. People want to know what the story is. We've had articles in the Reporter. We're thankful for you for reaching out to get this out there. And, there's elections coming up. So we're hopeful that, this will help be a driving force in getting that type of work done. I know I've spoken with Trevor and Michael, and both of them have said that they had requested that the work be done. And I feel like at this point, if nothing gets done, I think it's it's going to reflect poorly for anybody involved, because this is such a safety concern. And it's something that we've been dealing with, and it's something that everybody's aware of. And I think it's something that needs to get done before the winter, certainly, because the condition's only going to get worse. And,
Mhm.
there's going to be plowing on the road, which is probably going to take away whatever coal patching that they provide to us before the winter. So, there's a lot of safety issues around there for potential car accidents. There's damage already being done to people's vehicles within the community. So I'm really hopeful with this much exposure that something does happen and we get that repaired before the winter hits.
So what type of work are you looking at that you're hoping will be done before winter?
So I spoke with Michael, and he has said that from what he understands, there is supposed to be 3 sections of pavement um, that is to be done on McCackern Road. He didn't give the specific details of where that work would be done within the road, but he said that it was his understanding that that was supposed to be taking place. And when I spoke with Trevor, he said that there was supposed to be work being done and that the intersection with the beginning of McCackern Road coming off of 206 would most definitely be the one area where they would be providing some type of work to keep it safe until the construction can start sometime next year. As well as he said he thinks that they'll be doing some potholes along the stretch of road.
So in the same recent Facebook post that you made, you said the answer has been, and I quote, a firm no when asked if the bridge will be replaced. Do you believe that the fight for a bridge is over, or it just really doesn't look good right now?
Well, I don't think we feel that the fight for the bridge is over, and a lot of people within our group, and when we talk to them within the community, a lot of them are really pushing for the bridge. I would really like to be able to sit and meet with, the DOT again, and perhaps Trevor and our counselor for District 2, and just have a conversation again. We did request that to be provided with some of the financial breakdowns because, they would have had to have done an assessment and financial feasibility for both of them. So we weren't able to obtain that yet, but I don't think our fight for the bridge is over, especially where there's a delay, because we're not sure what the outcome of McCackern Road is going to be yet. So we're not sure what permits are going to get approved, and we're not sure if the safety issues that we've put in front of them are going to be addressed now with, not knowing where we land as far as what's going to be approved or not for that type of work. And, we don't want to give up on our idea of the bridge yet until we see what kind of work is going to take place, because, I think our concern is that the bridge always seemed to be the most feasible answer to the problem. And I would really like to sit with somebody and take a look at it financially, because I think there's a lot of work to be done on McCackern Road. And whereas I think, the potential of a Bailey Bridge, for instance, could have been a quicker and, cheaper solution at the end of the day. And I know it's been brought up a lot of times that people thought that was the way we should have went, and that they should have just, did some repaving work and fix the culverts on McCackern Road instead of, having to basically redesign it in order to make it safe and, something that's going to last. Certainly with the tides and the water changing now. So.
Now, you also floated the idea of a walking bridge. Is that something people seem to be interested in or getting behind, or do they still want a bridge that can accommodate vehicle and pedestrian traffic at the same time?
So I think there's a little bit of mixed reviews on whether or not they want a walking bridge. At the end of the day, I'd love to be able to see my neighbors who are in their 70s and 80s be able to, walk their path again like they used to. But, I don't think it's something that they want to give up on yet. I feel like we need more answers, and we need to see what's going to take place on McCackern Road before we can really decide which route we're going to go. I know that, the levels of government that I've talked to, municipal and provincial, have both really been backing the idea of, starting some type of committee to, to start the organization process for, applying for funding and getting it off the ground. And having our members go out there and do some research on what we can tap into and see if we can do something like that and kind of make it like a park area and a walking bridge. But I think we just want to hold off on that just to make sure that, our safety issues that we have addressed are what get met. And then I think we'll decide as a group how to push forward with that.
Yeah, I think you're referring to the idea of renewing Port Royal Recreation or some other organization to dip into available funding. I believe
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, eh?
Yeah. So there used to be an organization called Port Royal Recreation. So we're thinking that could be something that we revamp in the future should, the outcome not be a bridge that everybody was hoping for. But I think the possibility is there. But I think we just want to make sure that we cover all our bases first and see just exactly where next summer leads us.
Do you get the sense that Public Works is actually trying to work with the community now? It seems like the political and elected representatives are at least trying to do something. Do you get the sense that the same is occurring with Public Works?
I haven't been able to reach out. Well, I've reached out to them, but I haven't had much contact with them as of lately. It was there was a lot more in the winter and spring. I feel like there could have been more communication. I think that, if we weren't blindsided with what happened with the bridge, we might not be here today. I think they could have at least held a community meeting to let us know, that the bridge was irreplaceable and needed to be taken out and what their plans were for McCacken Road instead of the shock factor that we all felt. All of us were under the understanding that for years now that, something was going to happen. The bridge was going to be, have some upkeep to it and then eventually reopened. And so I think if they would have came out to the public a little bit sooner, I don't know if this is the reaction that they would have had.
So where now? It's a lot of waiting right now. You guys have to see what's going to happen. And is beyond that, I know you guys are exploring options, as you mentioned too. And is it just a matter of organizing, exploring options and waiting? Is that basically where you guys are at right now?
So right now we're in talks with, and Trevor and Michael, and as well as Lois, who's also has her name in the ring for District 2, have all really voiced that they are strongly committed to helping if we do decide to go the route of creating an organization or revamping Port Royal Recreation to see what avenues we can take to tap into like the different funding that's available. But I think we want to wait and see where we stand. We'd like to see what changes are going to be made on McCacken Road. Make sure that it's what we've laid out, because we did, we've had a list of recommendations that we presented to the DOT for the culverts and, the design and, the different levels and where, the increase in the water height had been and those types of things. So I think it's a waiting game of seeing what happens, what kind of permits get approved, is all the work that we suggested going to actually get done. And so I think we'll wait and see. But in the meanwhile, we're always working. There's different members and within the group that are always, hunting down information and seeing what we can tap into. And the idea of, and it doesn't even have to just be Port Royal Recreation. There's a lot of other issues within Alma Dam that, I think a group of this many people could really help work towards fixing. We're not the only road that is in disrepair right now. And, there's a lot of other places on the island that could use, this much momentum behind them. So I think, there's a great opportunity for, I guess, recreation type, to keep pushing through and see what else we can get accomplished on Alma Dam.
Well, that's great, Lake, and I really appreciate you making time out of your day to speak with me about what is a very important issue. And best of luck in your endeavors.
Thank you so much. Thanks for reaching out and bringing this to the public eye even more. So we really appreciate it.
Since this interview was conducted, patching work has taken place on McCacken Road. Earlier this month, Nova Scotia Public Works spokesperson Gary Andrea told me via email that the department is committed to upgrading McCachran Road. Work started earlier this summer involving brush clearing and ditching. Crews are back on site again, working in the same areas. He went on to say that the patching will be an ongoing process over the next few months, but the remainder of the capital upgrades, that includes paving, will take place next construction season. Thank you for watching. Please tune in again to find out what we will be talking about on The Record.